If we say something about truth, what I may want to say is that everything is connected to each other. So the truth is to understand the connection without losing the focus that you want to talk about, so that your focus orientation is not unbalanced. So actually, if I start with Zen, Zen is almost a void of talking, because truth may be only understood by intuition, which is very subjective for each person, and not utilizing the words and logic as much. So in a way, the Christians talk about the Garden of Eden, when the humans didn't have the knowledge until Adam and Eve ate the fruit of knowledge. Everything was as it is. But as soon as we ate the knowledge, the fruit of knowledge, we start to divide things, like a dualism, good and bad, beautiful, ugly, right and wrong, which is the use of our brain, and that's what I'm doing, to use my brain to communicate. But in case of Zen, it emphasizes silence, to observe, to see things as it is. Mind is equanimous, calm and quiet, or I often say no mind. If the mind is busy, like the word monkey mind, we get lost. So to make good judgment, intuition to prevail, to see things as they are, not as they seem to be, calm and quiet mind, observation, equanimity is important. So that's the idea of sila, samadhi, panna, as Buddha taught, that to use our mind and not to be occupied by ego or one-sided view or narrow viewpoint or silo idea of the caught up mind. We want to have sila, the right conduct of what we do, and have samadhi, calm and quiet mind, so that we can connect to the root of who we are, so to speak, where the life is prevailing, manifesting, instead of only occupied in the mind. So as I say, use the brain, but listen to the heart and live with mission. The heart is the core. The mission is connecting to that heart, so that we have a good view of what's going on and use the judgment with calm and quiet mind. So that's about Buddhism and the Zen and something about the truth. And in relation to what I said, everything is connected to each other. Abhidhammasaka Sutra, the Kegon philosophy I mentioned elsewhere, is to understand the interpenetration, the relationship, and each of those elements that we see to compose us and the whole world and the universe may be understood as it is, not as we think it is. So again, the calm and quiet mind. And therefore the wisdom and compassion may be generated, and accordingly the panna, the wisdom or compassion may be generated, and accordingly we may have a life connected to the root, the core of who we are. Again, use the brain or the word or the mind, not to be used, but connecting to the heart, understand the core where we were from and when we are living following the law of nature and have that awareness, then realize the mission and live accordingly, truthfully, sincerely, and be happy. Now, let's jump into the specifics and see how the connection can be made. Octopus. I was watching a YouTube video on Octopus, and this is quite interesting. I put the URL on description, but there's someone who created the hurdles, or like a game from the inlet to the outlet, inlet and the maze and all the hurdles to go through for Octopus. Then the end result is that they get eat the shrimp, which is at the end of this process. And you can see how Octopus uses his intelligence to overcome the difficulties and get to the end of it. And when I watched that, this insight, wisdom, how the octopus may have such intelligence, and I could relate, as this video point, that we have the same root of how this living being is progressed, evolution took place, and that what octopus does is something, if I may say so, I can relate to. For example, if in the maze or some place the octopus is blocked, he tries all sorts of things, and eventually he becomes quiet. And then, as if to digest what's going on, it's like a deep learning of AI. Perhaps in his mind, if there is such a thing, would seek through all the memories and find the passage, as if the AI would come up with all the big data to come up with a way of wisdom or compassion. It appears that this hurdle and passing through all the maze and everything resemble the situation when we have a case, the place, nowhere to go. I think meaning of life, as explained by, what's his name, the Jewish Auschwitz guy, Franco, I forgot his last name, something Franco. Anyway, the man and the meaning of life was his, Viktor Frankl, that's right, is talking about in Auschwitz, they could still go beyond the confinement, connecting to God or the loved one, to open up and be alive, appreciate life. So that's one expression, it's one is octopus, one is Auschwitz. But if we relate our living life, I can also connect. For example, I had this vipassana, which I talked about in other areas, and have even the report that was generated in the year 2000. I came to the nowhere to go situation, sitting long time, 8th day, every day for 12 hours, painful. And then I found the way out by changing the way I see things and become calm and quiet, and then all of a sudden, like an explosion, awakening, enlightenment, or satori, some may call, happen, and realize that all the confinement and pain was me generating. I'm trying to escape, to find a solution, and I couldn't. When I realized I couldn't, and could see myself as if from the third eyes, looking me from the other angle, to think, is it because I'm trying to escape? Is it the reason that I have this pain? And with that thought, probably I look at myself from different dimension, and I was talking about Octopus, the same thing that Octopus came up with the idea to pass through and call it the gateless gate, or that's Zen expression. I often talk about the bird in the cage. The bird is in the cage, but the door is open. But we don't know until we think different. Let me get this battery. So that's just the experience of Octopus, myself, or Zen, to face the difficulties and to go beyond by this idea, sila, samadhi, panna. As I said, AI seemed to go through the same process, gathering the big data, try this and that, like a neurons in the brain to seek for a solution. So the ideal generation, the wisdom, compassion, finding the truth, realizing who we are, what the mission is relating to us to go through, you can call it suffering. If you try and you cannot achieve, you have to think different. I think that's Apple, Steve Jobs said, think different to be creative. So the story of Octopus and the Zen and AI I talked about, and then in relation to that, all the elements to put together, connect to each other. That's what I said earlier. And that is related to, again, Buddhism. I'm more familiar with a sutra called the Kegon, or Avatamsaka Sutra. And relating to that, I wrote a book, even with the Dalai Lama's forward. The title of the book is Results from the Heart. Not just confined in the brain. There's a gateless gate, but if it opens up, when you do the sila and samadhi and be quiet and reassemble or revisit all the database, and that's what AI seems to be doing with the neural network analogy of that developed by the semiconductors and all the connection and other thing. So that seems to be very much similar, and therefore Octopus, Zen, awakening, Satori, Kegon, which is connection with all the elements, and process through AI or samadhi, bring out the wisdom, and that's actually what I see all the living beings have gone through that process. Whether octopus or tree or bird, we have something in common. And that's what Buddha mentioned, that there's equality among all of us. For wisdom, equality, and the amazement that things can happen out of nowhere. So that's the miracle of living. Mirror mind, like looking at yourself in the mirror from different angle. And the fourth one is the wisdom of evolution, or getting things done as it follows the laws of nature, as much as octopus finding the path to go through the hardness. And the AI related to that. So what's the point of this? Well, maybe I just touch on the Avatamsaka Sutra or the Kegon before that. Because my book, Results from the Heart, it is talking about the organization to transform itself with the concept of the mini company. There's a big company, but there's an element of the mini level of the company, or department and unit, and each individual. So that construct the whole organization. And for the organization to function well, those elements need to find the linkage so that they are not in a silo, but understand them to each relate to each other, like customer and suppliers, or the bankers and the employees. So the roles and responsibilities clear, and not each element to be told what to do, like a mind is deciding what to do. But each element itself has a mind, so to speak, self-managing process that in the universe and in the mini-universe or mini-universe, there's the same relationship called the Holon structure, that there's customer-supply relationship, there's a mission, KPI, key performance indicators, how you achieve the mission, and customer orientation, and go through the plan to check act cycle to optimize what they can in relation to others. And each mini company or mini company connected to each other, and the bankers and employee relationship all connected with the idea of the transparency or glass wall management, I call, they start to find the passage. But if you only depend on the top, it's like the brain is used, but the body is not appreciating its all potential. So I use that example of the stomach getting hurt if you are thinking too much and you don't notice the body is hurting. But without the body, you cannot live. So that's the relationship. And that relationship, not just the mind and the body or the heart, are within among the bodies, and find the passage so that the energy is not blocked, but wisdom is found, not at one level, but all across the whole organization. So Octopus, back to Octopus, is very interesting. If you watch this video I mentioned, it will be in the description. It says that the octopus has a brain, but it's decentralized. So each leg has its own nerve system and decision making, but as a whole, it makes sense. So that's kind of like a mini company idea. Some other organs may not be as much, but because of this construct in Octopus, they seem to be wise, if I may say so, and come up with a unique skill, like I mentioned, going through the hurdles with their wisdom to perform. So I guess the point I want to capture is, as I said, the brain and the heart, or the brain and the body and connection. If we solely depend on the mind or the rigid structure, but not being able to see the connection with each other, there's a limitation. So we need to connect the mind and body, mind and heart. And I have mentioned my awakening experience, and just one example related to this discussion is that when I was, for example, breathing, meditation in breathing is a way because of connection to the heart, because breathing can be done artificial with your mind, but there's a nature's way of breathing. If you meditate without using your mind, you can still be alive without mind. So that's the life energy, and that's the connection that is samadhi state, bringing out the wisdom. Instead of living in the brain and doing your best and cannot go anywhere, like I mentioned, the bird in the cage, we may see or we may know there's a door open, but we don't go out because we think all the answers should be in the mind. Like I said, I struggled for 8 days, sweating and wanting to go to the hospital, painful. But as I questioned, I realized the opening is there. That's samadhi, and the panna, the wisdom, enlightenment, popped up. So that's the life in this short video about the wisdom, compassion, how we may connect to the source, like in the case of um, breathing, because when you are breathing, you can connect to the natural breathing process, not just mind-based breathing. So if you can think through that and question about potentiality of what we can do to live our best, I think by connecting with a bunch of others, not developing the barrier and open, would help us achieve such a fully utilizing talent and have fun in living life while also contributing to the society. Thank you.